topic which Dr. Prasad told me, which your professors wanted to cover is what is the road ahead post Covid-19. And before we get into anything, let me first give a broad disclaimer. Nobody knows what is the road ahead from Covid-19. So what we are all doing is we are all speculating, and there is a lot of content that you're going to see. But what essentially Covid-19 has done, and that is the broad theme that I would like to maintain, is that it has actually created an event of a lot of changes that have been happening in the past decade or more. And that is exactly what we are going to focus on in terms of what lies beyond. What lies beyond is what always lied beyond. But COVID-19 has kind of given us that moment to think, to analyze, and to look back at what has happened in the past 20 years or maybe even longer, and therefore what lies ahead. So that actually brings me to another logical point, and I'm going to be moving on to the student world, the education world, which was more of a subject that I was planning to take with the help of Dr. Prasad, but I can take it up myself also. But I'll take again a quick short break and also again check with Professor Chandrakumar if there are any questions you want me to stop and take them up.
Yeah. So the question is, one question is from Dr. C. Magesh, who is our professor. He was asking some more insight on engineering education, how this is going to be after the post-COVID, number one. And the question is from myself is, since the higher education to abroad as well as buying a product from other country, now both are questionable. So will you see this as an opportunity for people who are in this engineering background? Can come up with something fantastic idea, product or service which will be good for the India and good for themselves to have a startup. So just throw some insight on these opportunities brought by this COVID-19.
Definitely. So your question I will reserve to cover after the next slide. But I'll answer the question about how what this means for engineering as a whole. And I think maybe it's implicit here, but let me make it very, very explicit. If you look at the list of what I have just said, what are going to be the future shaping things, none of them are actually a part of what is called the arts line. All of them are engineering related points. Each of them requires some amount of engineering, including managing the coronavirus pandemic. Because, forget about everything else. Today, we are all able to work from home because the internet exists, because we have the whole information infrastructure, and it is all a marvel of engineering. It has nothing to do with any arts education. It is not just about some philosopher philosophizing about hey, there'll be a super information super highway to which people will connect. No, it is all hard work of engineers. It has all been done through hard work of engineers. I want to specifically stress upon one area, which is the blockchain. So one of my Nitty juniors, he's working on the blockchain area, and I was talking to him day before, and he made a very pertinent point. He said that if you look at companies in general, even big name companies in general in the world today, whether you're talking of Amazon or Google and so many others, you will find that most of the CEOs of these companies are engineers. They are engineers by qualification. But there is a fundamental difference between running a Google so being an engineer, one thing is, being an engineer means that you are a smart guy. To a certain extent, engineering requires certain amount of intellectual capacity, and therefore, if you look at most of the CEOs, they being engineers, it is not that their engineering education has helped them so much, but it is just the fact that the people who had the intellectual capacity obviously went ahead and therefore they are heading these companies. But if you look at some of the points some of the industries that I've listed here, especially I've not even listed actually space exploration, like the space companies here. But if you look at Hyperloop, if you look at blockchain, these are extremely high level of engineering is required here. So blockchain, for example, the point that this batchmate of mine made is that blockchain is an industry where you are an engineer is the CEO, not just because he's a smart chap and he can think as good about how to manage people as he can about engineering things, but you need an engineer to be the CEO because this is such a technically intricate area. There is so much technology there that somebody who does not have at the least a science background, somebody who does not have an engineering background will not be able to make sense of what is happening. They will not be able to even understand what this company is about, forget about running the company. So this is similar to about 40 years back when you had semiconductor companies coming up, like Intel was started by Gordon Moore. Gordon Moore is a guy who had 3 PhDs. So you needed somebody with 3 PhDs in physical sciences to come up with a semiconductor. Similarly, what you see here in blockchain, what you see here in solar technologies, there is very intricate technical work required, and therefore the future is definitely for people who can understand this, who can come up with, who can understand and who can understand how to grow this and how to make it even more complex and still continue to work on it. So I think I do hope I've answered that one question about engineering.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let me now go to specifically on education. What is exactly happening with COVID-19 onto education? So first is that the days of the classroom were already over. I don't think COVID, again, as I'm saying, COVID-19 is just making us realize that the moment has come. The moment had already come, and I'll give you a very simple example. I have an engineering team of 5 people. One of them is an MTech in computer science, but the other is a BSc IT. One guy is a BTech. Another guy is an MTech in mechanical engineering, not in computer science, not in electronics engineering, but mechanical engineering. And the 5th person, his graduation qualification is actually BCom. But all of these people ultimately have learned technology. So the guy who did his qualification in BCom while he was pursuing his BCom, and I believe that BCom is a presumably much lighter course. I mean, you go to college or class, you attend class for 3 hours in the morning. That's it. That's all that a lot of kids who take BCom courses. So the rest of the day is free. So this kid used to go to YouTube and learn about coding, and he learned coding so well that he was able to therefore appear for an interview with my company, and I selected him for his ability to be able to code good. So the point is that the days of when you would sit in the classroom and learn are over. COVID-19 has only helped us realize that yes, it is not only just possible, but it is now necessary to take the class sitting at home, just like all of you are doing right now today, right? Sitting at home on your laptop, on your computer, and listening to the professor online. It is possible to do that, and therefore, COVID-19 is only going to accelerate the movement to education at will, education remotely. Education and that actually, since there are a lot of students here, I want to stress upon, if you look at what you're seeing on the screen, right, what you're supposed to do is this bottommost yellow arrow. You're supposed to be attending your class, but because you are not sitting in the class, there's no professor watching you, and you are using a laptop which has an internet connection, it is as much possible that while the professor is taking the class, you have the opportunity to visit Facebook, or you might have put your attendance on your class and you might be attending some other online course, maybe a yoga course for that matter, and trying to do yoga in parallel, and it's perfectly possible. So what has actually happened because of this transformation is that the power has slipped away from the hands of the professor who was standing here in this classroom and trying to tell students, hey, pay attention and this is what I'm teaching. The power has shifted and it has gone into the hands of the student directly. Now it's up to the student, it's up to you. You want to attend the course, you can attend the course. You want to attend some other course, you can attend some other course, or you can be whiling away your time on Facebook. And nobody, I mean, you are the master of, as it has been said, you are the master of your soul. You, no longer getting admission into the college ensures that you're going to learn, because your learning is still dependent on what you do each day, each hour, each minute. It's completely in your hands. And as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. So the power has been transferred, and therefore the responsibility also gets transferred. So what is this all going to lead to is the dynamics are going to change very, very fast. What's going to happen is the importance of getting selected to the right college is going to go down tremendously. Why? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which college you went to. But and I'm sure if some of you have heard of this story about Steve Jobs, if you haven't, I will really recommend, just go on to YouTube, search for Steve Jobs lecture on connecting the dots. And it's not a very long lecture, but Steve Jobs talks about a lot of very interesting things. And one of the things that he talks about is that he was a dropout in his college. So since he was a dropout, he did not have the obligation to attend any colleges. He had anyways dropped out of the college, but he was still living on the campus. Because he had nowhere else to go. He was living on the campus. So he had the freedom to drop into any class that he wanted. So as a result, and he connects the dot here and he says, as a result, he ended up attending a calligraphy class, wherein how do you draw interesting characters? And he said that calligraphy class, the knowledge that he learned in that calligraphy class came back to him when he was designing the fonts for the Apple II computer. And that knowledge that otherwise, so had he been attending the specific course, calligraphy was not a part of his curriculum. So he would never have learned calligraphy. The fact that he dropped out and then he dropped into the calligraphy lecture just because he found calligraphy to be interesting had a profound implication that he was able to use that knowledge while building the Apple II computer. Now, for Steve Jobs, it happened by chance. What I'm saying is, for today's generation, it is happening by design. The fact that the power has shifted in the hands of the students means that now students have to decide what courses they need to take, which classes they want to attend, which class they want to pay more attention to, which class they want to pay less attention to. So the focus is going to shift rapidly from getting selected to the right college, because it's no longer about getting selected to the right college. You can be sitting at home and attending a course in Harvard University. You can be sitting at home and you can be watching an interesting video on YouTube, which might be much more valuable than attending the lecture of your professor. So the focus is going to shift to selecting the right subjects to study. Similarly, until now, once you got selected into the college, you know that the college is going to ensure that you learn, you pass, you study. Your professor was going to make you sit in the classroom, teach you things, make you understand the subject, then administer an exam, make sure you passed well, and that entire cycle was already custom made for you. And again, I want to stress it back. This was the industrial model of education. I was born and therefore I lived through and I got trained in the industrial model of education. But the generation of today does not have that kind of environment with them. Today, you are sitting at home. As I said, it's up to you. Do you want to attend a yoga class? Do you want to while away your time on Facebook? Or do you want to really attend the class that's being taught by your professor? And if you think, it would be perfectly valid that you might find that, what your professor is teaching on the online class is not relevant, and I'd rather take the yoga class. I'm not even judging you here that you are doing the right or wrong thing. What I'm saying is that the decision matrix is changing. Students are now responsible for their learning. And this also means that until now, learning was paced based on the lecturer or the curriculum which was designed. But now the lecture, the learning is now paced by the student. So the students will, if they have the freedom to take courses sitting at home, they can decide if they want to take the course today, tomorrow, if they want to, just like they binge watch a Netflix show, if they want to binge watch a particular lecture, if they want to binge watch, for example, the thermodynamics lecture, all the thermodynamics lectures, starting today morning till maybe tomorrow morning, I'm just going to watch thermodynamics lectures and finish off the subject and I'm done, right? So the learning is going to be paced based on the student's comfort. And the last, which is the most important part, until now, we had a very clear system. There were exams, there were scores given by teachers from a known syllabus. We knew what the syllabus was, and we also knew in many of the autonomous colleges, for example, teachers usually teach something in the classroom and they set the question paper out of what they have taught because they don't want their students to fail. I have grown. I mean, Nitty was like that. So it was very easy for us. I'll be honest. It was very easy for us. We knew, hey, this is what is being taught in the classroom. He's not going to ask from outside it. Unless he's a professor who's known for that, he's not going to do that. But now that world is over. Just because now the whole power has shifted to learning from teaching. Therefore, employers have also become smart. Employers are going to evaluate students on their own using their own barometers. They are not going to rely on what was taught in the class. The employer is going to come and say, hey, this is what I want done. Are you capable of delivering this? If you are capable of delivering this, okay, come on board. I am selecting you. Do the job. And I'll give you a simple example. We are developing a chatbot right now in my company. What did we do? We went on Internshala and we said, hey, I want people who know and understand dialogue flow. I don't care whether you have a BCom degree or a BSc degree or a BTech degree or an MTech degree or you are a PhD in artificial intelligence. I want someone who knows how to develop a chatbot using dialogue flow. If you know this, apply. Then I would obviously quiz them. I had my own way of evaluating whether they knew the subject. If I think they knew the subject, I selected them. So right now, the person who's developing this chatbot for me is a second-year student from a small tier 2 town in India. He's not even graduated, but he's doing some work for me. So things are going to change drastically. And with that, Professor Chandra Kumar, I go to that question that you asked. What is it that can be done? So I am saying it is, we have challenges and we have opportunities both. So what is the challenge? As I said, the challenge is that today, it's not necessary that just because the student lives in India that he's going to take a course from an Indian college or an Indian university. If they can, they are going to access YouTube courses or Unacademy or Coursera courses launched by the Harvard or Wharton or the MITs of the world. Just because they live in India doesn't mean they're going to do courses in India. So educators and teachers have the responsibility to create something online so that, and let's stop thinking about even our universe of students as Indians. Why should, just because we are located in India does not mean that only Indian students. It can be a student in Africa, it can be a student in Poland, it can be a student in US or Canada who might be taking your course. If your course is valuable, if you can create something online on one of these platforms, and there are 2-3 pretty well-known platforms. You have Unacademy, you have Udemy, you have Coursera, which are pretty well-known. If you can create a course, and I mean, anybody can come and get educated, and anybody will pick it up, and anybody will learn. And the same applies for the student side. The students can go anywhere; they can get educated by anyone. There are people in India today who are taking yoga lessons from yoga gurus who are living in Canada. So, imagine India is the land where yoga was born, but you find that somebody who's sitting in Canada today, who possibly went to Varanasi, lived in Varanasi for 5 years, learning yoga from some great yoga masters, now went back to Canada, settled there. He's running a course on yoga from Canada for Indians who are living in India, for whom Varanasi is closer than Toronto. But that's happening. That's the world we live in today. So I hope I have answered that question as well. What my views on that subject are.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Yeah. So I think I think I'm done. I'm done with what I wanted to say. This is all that I wanted to tell the students and everybody on this. I'm open for any other questions that might.
Yeah. So there was one question from a student called Nagachandra. So he was asking about what was the immediate effect in IT sector due to the COVID.
Okay, there were multiple effects. First is that a lot of IT companies were still operating with old methods. They were not allowing their employees to work from home because they wanted the old, as I said, the industrial way of working, Come in the morning, put in your thumbprint so that just like the laborer in the factory, your attendance also gets counted. Sit on your desk for 8 hours, 10 hours, leave. While leaving, again swipe your finger and go out. And then there'll be a boss sitting behind you in the cubicle behind you, monitoring what you're doing. And that was their way of working. That is how they controlled quality. That was how they controlled the output. That is how, and they didn't even give laptops to their employees. They were all working on desktops because they expected employees to turn up in the office. All these companies have been shocked into action. They have finally realized that, hey, we are living in the information world. The employee is not a slave. We cannot expect them to turn up to office every day. And we cannot be working with desktops in a world when the internet is all pervasive. When we have internet, even when we are sitting in the washroom, we are swiping, Instagram posts. We cannot be giving people desktops in this world. There have been IT companies that I'm aware of, big IT companies who had to literally courier office desktops to homes of employees so that they could continue work. Having said that, I think it's a welcome change. Something good has come out of this. They have realized a lot of IT companies who did what is called a business continuity plan only for the name of it. They finally realized that the business continuity plan is something much more valuable than just a certification that you get with it. So they actually have put their house in order. They have a lot of, people who may not understand the fact that people are working from a single office location has a big impact on information security, because there are a lot of security implemented in the office network. Now, suddenly you have a situation where people are working from home. You have to think innovatively and you have to come up with solutions so that the same level of security is available for people working from home. So that is a welcome change. Again, this technology was available. I used to work for KPMG. I remember I had the facility to work from home from day zero. I joined KPMG in 2005. So in 2005, I could work from home in that company. So it was possible 15 years ago. It is just that a lot of companies didn't want to spend the money initially, and a lot of them culturally did not do it. Now they have done it. Having said that, there is so in that sense, I think the COVID-19 has resulted into a positive change. People have realized what they need to do. There are a lot of IT companies have continued working. They have sustained. They have not allowed their clients or their own work to get impacted. Having said that, the truth is that we are all facing a recession, because while IT can continue to work from home, but industries cannot work from home. Travel sector is down. There are so many things that cannot happen because people are in a lockdown. So we are going to see ripple effects. We are going to see a recession coming in. When a recession comes in, spending goes down. So businesses will stop spending money, and IT projects will be one of the set of expenses of companies that will be cut down. A lot of companies that would have spent something on technology, something on AI, something on machine learning, they would say, hey, let's not do it for the next 2 years. We don't have the money. Let's do it after 2 years. So obviously earnings of IT companies are going to get impacted. They haven't gotten impacted as yet, but we are seeing early signs. We are seeing early signs of contracts either getting cancelled or projects getting delayed and stuff like that. So there is both positive and negative effect. Again, as I said, if people are not going to, so I go back to this slide, if IT companies as such are going to get impacted, there are these sectors which are going to absorb that. So what happens, a big oil company or a big manufacturing company cancels its ERP project. That cancellation results into engineers sitting idle. which means these engineers have to be occupied. Now these engineers have to be occupied. The IT company drops its man-hour prices. So now one of the startups in this sector, let's say the blockchain sector, says, hey, I cannot afford an engineer at $100 an hour, but I can afford an engineer at $70 an hour. So if I can afford an engineer at $70 an hour, and just because the oil companies delayed a project and now cost of an engineer is down to $70 an hour, you are going to have one of the blockchain companies pick up those idle man hours of engineers and develop something for the future. So in balance, I think the IT companies are going to survive. There'll be a temporary hit, but they are going to make money provided they get their priorities right. They are working on future facing technologies.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'm seeing very normal question which I don't want to discuss here. Any other question? You can quickly, if you could unmute yourself, you can ask. Maybe we'll give you 5 more minutes. Is that okay, Mr. Nikhil?
Sure, yeah.
So, for some reason, like university like us, no, we are good in delivering our lectures, but we are facing a challenge in terms of how we are going to assess the students, in terms of how we are going to organize the exam. That is our challenge, because we are now immediately put into this IT platform. Delivering and assessing is challenging. What we face normally, all the universities are facing it.
Yes.
So I don't think. Yeah. Is there any question? Yeah, please, Nikhil. You want to say something?
Yeah. So what I'm saying again, I think this is a problem that has already been solved as to how you assess students. So there are companies today built on the very concept of. So just as I said, there is one of my team members is a BCom. How did I get him? So there are companies today that specialize in this. What they do is they organize what are called hackathons, and the hackathon is an assessment of the student, and that assessment. So these companies actually, they do nothing. They just keep on organizing hackathons. The results of those hackathon assessments are then for a fee. I have to pay money as an employer. I have to pay money to them to get access to those hackathon results, and those results are used by me to select the right candidate for my company. So the point is, this problem. It's no longer a problem. The problem has been solved long ago. I think institutes like you just need to go out there and find the right solution. There are a lot of software available out there which can be used to assess students, and it provides you it provides you much more flexibility than what the standard examination can. For example, in a standard examination, all students are administered the same questions. Now, using online methods, you could even build a customizable question paper. So if he answers one question in a particular way, the next question will be different. You could make it like a branched kind of a question paper. And I mean, there is much more that can be done now in terms of assessments. And as I said, employers are already doing it. So there's nothing. It's nothing new. It's a solved problem. I think colleges just need to evolve and discover these technologies for themselves.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And in between, Dr. Mandi sir gave his YouTube audio PPT, and I just posted the link, and the participant can.
I heard that yesterday. And I think that definitely covers the message that he wanted to give.
Yeah, he would like to cover the message which is converted into PPT. I urge all the participants, please visit the link and listen to his presentation. So I think that's from our side.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikhil, for giving your fantastic presentation. I hope all the student faculty members who are find this very much useful.
Yeah, and I wish all the best to all the students and everybody else on this thing. And I just want to leave you with these words that the future is uncharted. We don't know where we are headed. I'm pretty sure we are going to Mars, but when, how, it is for this generation of engineers to figure out how. I would love to go to Mars if one of you can innovate and create a capsule to send me there. But yeah, the future is bright for all of us. I mean, COVID-19 or no COVID-19, I'm pretty sure we are all going to come out of this pretty much stronger and a much better mankind than what we are.